The best speeches are the ones that involve and engage their audience. If your audience is not engaged, then they are not paying attention to you or your topics. There are certain ways one can engage their audience. People who can do this can create a meaningful, fun, factual, and entertaining speech. But how is this done? Well, for one, you need to have a personal narrative. Use comedy, take risks, and be in control of the room. Let's use an example of a topic, LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Who is better? A lot of people would try to start by asking a question to their audience. In my opinion, that's a bad idea. I would try to find a way to grab the audience's attention that would grip them from the beginning of their speech to the end of it. For example, I might start my speech by sharing a personal narrative or story. People love stories, and if you begin a speech by hooking the audience with an eye-catching and interesting opening storyline, you can hold their attention throughout your entire speech. Usually whenever I write a speech, I try to put in a personal narrative because for me, I do not want to sit and listen to a boring speech. Please hook me and make your presentation interesting. As human beings, we love stories, and I know you love telling people yours. You have to hook your audience before you can go deeper into your topic. If you spit out a bunch of facts, no one will listen and people's minds will be elsewhere. Whenever I give a speech, I mix in some comedy in between my facts so people will stay engaged and listen. In my opinion, when people do not integrate comedy into their speech, it falls flat. I think that this is one of the biggest problems with some speeches. If you give me too many facts in a row, no one will know what you are talking about. If you put some comedy in there and space out your facts, people will listen. People will continue to listen because they're being entertained. I think a lot of students and people miss that part of a speech. You have to make your presentation interesting. We as humans love fun, and if you have a fun presentation, we will stay engaged and love you by the end of it. Also, one must take risks in their presentation. For example, for my first presentation in this class, I wore my Church League basketball warm-up jersey. My audience was already intrigued before I even started my speech, already giving me a slight edge in if they will stay engaged or not. Take risks in your jokes or some of your content. If an audience member hears you say something that they do not agree with, they will pay more attention to it. Put some of your opinions in and make your voice heard. Taking a risk in your presentation means to do things that are unexpected. Do things that your audience is not expecting or that you even feel somewhat uncomfortable with. Some may say, that sounds like a terrible idea, but I say this to them. You gotta take a risk to get rewards, right? Whenever I create a speech, I try to create something that you will remember as an audience member. I do not want it to be your everyday run-of-the-mill speech. When I'm done presenting, I want people to look back at my presentation and say, do you remember Mike's speech? He did awesome. Another way you can engage your audience is by throwing them into something. For example, one of my presentations, my group members and I created a Kahoot. If you throw your audience for a loop and take the yet again risk of doing so, it will pay off. You will force your audience to engage and to pay attention to your speech. Then, while they're in your set loop, you can engage them by asking them questions or by turning a conversation towards them. While presenting a speech, one must be formal, but by creating this loop, you can flip an informal mood upon your audience by throwing the conversation towards them. This said loop that I'm talking about is almost like making a trap for your audience that they're totally unaware of. The presenter can create this loop and flip the conversation from a formal topic to an informal one. This happens because while your audience is trying to type in the Kahoot code or website code, you have to make conversation with them, unless you really love awkward silence and making everyone feel uncomfortable. This is where the trap, aka loop, comes into play. Inside your Kahoot, only you know what the questions will be. If you can create a Kahoot and have an idea of what you want to talk about with your audience, you can better create this informal mood. Once this is created and you are on a topic that you have chosen, your audience to talk, you can better engage them through comedy. If you can integrate comedy and people will stay engaged. We love to laugh and have fun, and when you're stuck in a formal mood, you cannot escape it. And when people become bored, and that's when people become bored. Now then, after your trap/loop is set, and you've gotten your audience to not only engage with you, but each other as well, this is when you get your information out. At this stage, you introduce the actual content of your speech. Your audience will continue to listen closely because you have integrated some funny lines in between facts and have hooked them. Now, I have given you all the knowledge you need to not only have a speech that engages your audience, but you will have a memorable speech that your whole class will love. Remember, you have to be funny and integrate comedy into your speech. Set a trap and loophole for your audience, tell a personal narrative or story, and lastly, take risks in your presentation. And oh yeah, do not start with a question. Now get out there and make your own fantabulous, eye-catching, super special, awesome presentation.